Hello, good morning, and welcome to this Dawn Busters Taste Challenge, 5:31 a.m. Central Standard Time, third Sunday of Advent 2020. We have two Canadian blended whiskeys, one with an age statement, one without. This is the one without. This is Royal Canadian, introduced 1934, imported. There's the shield. You see. It says distilled under supervision of the government of the Dominion of Canada, product of Canada. Okay, we get it. They keep emphasizing Canada, Canada, Canada. So there you go. Distilled under the supervision of the government of the Dominion of Canada. It's got a horse head, a shield with a maple leaf, two lions supporting the shield. Now here's the clincher. Imported and bottled in the U.S., the United States, by Sazerac Company, Frankfort, Kentucky. Now, that's the Buffalo Trace distillery. But see, they only call it Buffalo Trace for certain brands. For brands like Canadian whiskey or American blended whiskey, they'll call it Sazerac Company, Frankfort, Kentucky, or they'll call it whatever alias blended whiskey name distilling of Frankfort, Kentucky, but it's Buffalo Trace. When you go on the tour of Buffalo Trace, they're not going to take you in the rooms where they're aging off, what we call off brands, obscure brands, or they're not going to take you in the bottling plant where they're bottling Royal Canadian. Okay, they're going to take you to Blanton's. They showed us Ancient Age. They're going to show you, they're Buffalo Trace, their main brands. Good. Kyle says, good morning to you. And Brad Friesen says, cheers. Cheers to you, Brad Friesen. Thanks for watching. Now, the competitor is a brand that was introduced in 1984, introduced by Seagram's in 1984, aged 3 years. Seagram's Canadian Hunter. Can't quite figure out why they introduced this. They had Canadian whiskey already, but they thought it was going to be some new modern style Canadian blended whiskey. That's what they were saying when I saw the news release. I saw old archives on the internet. It's like a Canadian whiskey for the 80s, or what did they say, 80s style. But to me, it didn't taste much different from Crown Royal, tell you the truth, but or Seagram's VO. But anyway, they probably have subtle differences that I'm not equipped to detect. You know what I'm saying? Crown Royal, Seagram's VO, Canadian Hunter. It's probably over my head. Like Christine McVie would say, over my head. Okay, now. But I'm not saying it tastes bad or anything strange. It just, I couldn't find that it was that much different from the others I mentioned. For whatever reason, and I think I know the reason, the company was starting to fail because 11 years later they went out of business. But they sold Canadian Hunter and a bunch of other brands such as Eagle Rare, Benchmark, Bourbon. I'm trying to think. Fireball flavored cinnamon whiskey to Sazerac in 1989. And it was replaced by Canadian Hunter, which is no age statement, blended whiskey with natural flavors added. Okay, so it does not taste the same as this. I'm not saying it's real different. I did a taste challenge between the two. I was able to tell them apart. It wasn't, like profoundly different, but it was different. Max Walt. Hello, Ron. Hello to you, Max Walt in Russia. Beerhound. Hello to you in California. Good morning. Cheers from Orange County. Okay, this is going to be a tough taste challenge because what I did before was all those Sazerac house style Canadian whiskeys because they have a tendency to taste very similar, not identical, but very similar. Now the Royal Canadian is one that they bought from somebody else. I'm trying to think who started Royal Canadian. I think it was Barton, a company called Barton, which is no longer an independent company. They were bought out by Sazerac in 1999. I don't know what's wrong with me. 2009. I knew it was some '09. Barton was an old company from the 1800s, and they got bought by Sazerac in 2009. Their most famous brand is the Barton 1792 whiskey from Barton Distillery in Bardstown, Kentucky. And my friend David was telling me yesterday, I never heard of Barton 1792. He said, but everybody knows about 1792 bourbon. I said, no, that's what it's called. Oh, yeah, because it's real small on the label. I said, yeah, it's the same thing. Oh, yeah, okay. He said, okay. But anyway, this has the old, it has an old Sazerac style bottle, brown bottle though. Most of their bottles are clear, but this one's good because it's brown, protects the whiskey. It's got that tapered, the shoulders, and then it's tapered down to the lip. You'll find some other Sazerac brands like this. Can't recall right off the bat. But now, there's also a Royal Canadian with a very different bottle, like a squared off Johnny Walker style bottle. And it's called Royal Canadian Small Batch, red label. Royal Canadian Small Batch Canadian whiskey. I've never seen it in a store. I see that they have pictures of it online, and I see that there's some liquor stores that sell it, like maybe in Texas or here or there. But I've never seen the small batch. It's not $8.99. I got this bottle for $8.99 at Discount Depot on United States Highway 90 business route westbound in Marrero, Louisiana, right off the, on the service road below the elevated expressway. Okay, but anyway, good deal, $8.99. Same price for the Canadian Hunter, Seagram's Canadian Hunter, $8.99. Clear bottle, should be brown, but most of these whiskeys be in clear bottles. International market on the east bank of the Mississippi River on Barron Street at an international market. So this was bought east of the Mississippi River, and this was bought west of the Mississippi River. And the only other time I ever saw Royal Canadian was in a 375 glass bottle, not far away from where I bought this, also west of the Mississippi River. I've never seen it east of the Mississippi. Is that some kind of delineation for distribution? It could be, I don't know. I'll notice a lot of times that the west bank of the river will sell different beers than the east bank. You say, no, you're crazy. No, I'm not crazy. SCH, Seagram's Canadian Hunter, and the other one. All right, so Coors Banquet beer. You've heard of Coors and Coors Light. Was not sold east of the Mississippi River until 1981. I don't know why. Wasn't sold in every state until 91, only 29 years ago. Indiana was the last state to allow Coors sales. Yeah. Pale gold straw. I think back in the early 80s, it was that situation here. People would drive across the Mississippi River, either the Huey P. Long Bridge, the Highway 90 Bridge, US 90 Bridge, or the Greater New Orleans Bridge, GNO, the US Highway 90 Business Route Bridge. There's two bridges across the river in New Orleans, 90 or 90 Business, and then they come back together, They come back together on either side to continue west to Texas or east to Jacksonville, Florida. But I think back in like 1980, 81, and before, you would have to drive across, and at a grocery store, they would have Coors. But east, they didn't have it. And then they are finally allowed, they said in 1981, now we'll allow Coors to be sold east of the Mississippi. And then all the stores around here had it. And then by 1985, you remember, you started noticing that Coors Light was overtaking Coors. It was started like, it was like through the 80s. And a lot of y'all might remember. Then 85, 86, and then Coors Banquet started to fade. And Coors Light became the primo Primero brand. Cerveza Primero por la Cervecería Coors. Okay. Deep gold. Now, interesting. No age statement that I could find. Remember, it's been on the market for 86 years. It's been on the market longer than Crown Royal, but it's hard to find this on the internet. Like if you try to look up Royal Canadian, you know what comes up. Google and Bing or whatever, they'll bring up, or Yahoo, they'll bring up Crown Royal. Like, so you type in Royal Canadian, and it'll try to correct you and say Crown Royal. So like every link they bring up is Crown Royal. And you're like, no, I'm looking for Royal Canadian, and it won't bring it up. Now you might say, well, they tried to copy off of Crown Royal by switching the name backwards. That cannot be so. Because Royal Canadian hit the market in 1934, and Crown Royal came out in 1939, 5 years later. So I got this. I've never seen the small batch red label. And I really don't, there's really no one on YouTube or whatever when you see them doing videos of any Royal Canadian reviews. I couldn't. Maybe there's me and maybe one or two other people, but it is obscure to say the least. I did see an old photo from like about 1976 of Ozzy Osbourne in a concert holding up a huge inflatable bottle of Royal Canadian. Same bottle design as this, identical design. And he's like, yeah. Then he admitted later on, that's why I got fired from that band. I was drinking all the time, getting fat on beer. I wasn't focused. I was becoming an old drunk. I got off of drinking. Yeah, right. And then he got involved with a lot of non-liquid refreshment. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, that's another, like the Grateful Dead would say, another time, another place. All right. But it was interesting to see that old photo of him holding up that inflatable Royal Canadian. Maybe in the 70s it was more prominent. I doubt it, though. It was probably just some promotional thing that somebody got from a liquor store and threw it up on the stage and he held it up. I don't know. It's all speculation. It's all guesswork. I have to keep my eyes closed because of the shade difference. Hear sirens sound like fire trucks. Uh-oh. It's either a fire or a car wreck. More than likely a wreck. You know, you don't have too many fires these days. The Seagram's Canadian Hunter, remember, is very pale, as though they didn't add any coloring. And you know what? I don't think they added any coloring. The Royal Canadian is amber, but maybe they didn't add coloring either because I don't know how old it is. I don't know how long it's been aged. Could be 3, 4, 6 years. Who knows? I doubt it's long. You know what I mean? I don't think it's a very long age product. When we did a duo video, my daughter and I did a duo video of it. The first thing she said when she tasted it was, ugh. And then she didn't like it. And we kept going. Now, by the end of the video, she said, well, you know what? It's really not bad. It's just unusual and it's kind of plain. And she said her only reference point is bourbon, basically, with the heavy charred oak. So she wasn't really used to that just stark wood note that Canadian whiskeys have, because their oak barrels are usually used barrels where all the char is done worn off, you know. So it's just oak with this residual char. So she just had no experience with it. And then she admitted, well, I can't say it. She had to say, I cannot say it's bad. But it was certainly discombobulating to her. It was something she had never run across before. Good morning from California, says Daniel Geary. Good morning to you. Kyle says Smokey and the Bandit transporting Coors. Right. That started that whole legend. I mean, it didn't start the legend, I should say. It perpetuated it. and got two things so popular. Got Trans Am's, the second generation Trans Am really popular. That was their best selling years too, 77, 8, 9, 77, 78, 79, 82 maybe. Then it got Coors beer so popular, and well, Coors, at least Coors is still around. I just remember everybody in 1978 wanted to have a black Trans Am with a gold eagle decal, you know, applique. They'd look pretty, but then they would start, you know, they would always peel off. I mean, sunlight is incredibly harsh, you know, it would just wreck it. Probably a more difficult one to find would be a trim model without the eagle, the Firebird. You know what I'm saying? The thing. The Phoenix. That's what it is. What am I saying? It's the Phoenix, the Firebird, the Phoenix, like Jean Grey. And but to find like a 78 Trans Am, 77 Trans Am, but just with the same engine and transmission and handling package, but without the appliques, you know, without the call outs. It could be more difficult to find because I think they were just rolling those out like mad. It's like finding a Mustang 2 Cobra 2 without the decals. They made them, but they're almost impossible. They didn't really make them too often. Okay, I think I know which is which. You see, this one has like a caramel candy aroma. And that's not something I detected in any Canadian whiskey so far in this Taste Challenge series of Seagram's Canadian Hunter versus Everybody. It's a strange, light caramel candy. And I think that's Royal Canadian because that was my thinking along with what it smelled like in the past. Not the greatest aroma, you know, but $8.99. Now this one's just like standard North American whiskey, bourbon or otherwise. You know what I'm saying? It's just like those telltale components. Corn, straight and narrow, you know what I mean? Straight, ordinary corn, distillate. Then you got wood, sort of like think along the lines of a toothpick. And then you got the third part, the other products, which could be wheat whiskey, single malt whiskey, rye whiskey. Almost invariably, it's going to be rye whiskey with Canadian whiskey. If you read about the history of Canadian whiskey, and then some of those flavorings. I think Seagram's went very light on the flavorings, like, or maybe they put a little blending sherry in it. You see, but I think they were trying to approximate VO or Crown Royal, and I don't know why. But then you might say they didn't even know what they were doing. They were just putting out brands with not a whole lot of thought. I don't know. They put out Seagram's VO Gold during the last act of Seagram's company. Less than 2 years before they imploded, they put out VO Gold and spent all kind of time on it. Like I was watching a video by their old distillery master. He was saying, man, they just were like perfected, you know, they had a mind of perfection on how to do it, and they were like testing it. No, and then they finally got it down to where they wanted it, and they released Seagram's VO Gold. And but I've had VO Gold, and but I didn't see where it was, like I say, that different than VO. Is age 8 years, but like I say, they probably could pick up on characteristics and nuances that I could never determine or discern. But then the company was poof, gone like the wind in 2000. Oh, you can still see VO Gold on all your shelves, but it's under the Sazerac umbrella today. Oh yeah, okay, here we go. Enough's enough. Time to taste, and I know it already. I'm telling you, this is Royal Canadian, and I'm unanimous in that. Mm. Hmm. A little peanut in my mouth. Piece of peanut from the peanut butter and jelly, crunchy peanut butter. Gave it a peanut flavor, but no, that's like I said, that caramel candy and a lot of wood. A little char, like a little bitty tiny piece of char, a bit of char, but it's mostly just wood, like straight up oak, a la a toothpick. It's okay. I wouldn't really go running to look for it or anything like that. I didn't run to look for it. I just happened to stumble upon it in Discount Depot, and I said $8.99. I'll buy it. How bad can it be? Turns out it ain't really bad. It ain't. It's not exactly impressive, but it's okay. Mostly a mixer. These things are almost assuredly designed for mixology. Mixology. So that's my story, G. Plain old whiskey. Morning, Ronald, and everyone, says Beer Baron. Good morning to you, 1920 Beer Baron. Well, let me tell you. This is like the ultimate tie because they're the same price, same bottle size. Kind of same IEUs in international enjoyment units. You know what I'm saying? They're not too enjoyable, but they're not too horrible. They're just sort of like low level B at this time. You know, my scores can fluctuate because it depends on a lot of variables. But yes, I think they both be around a B minus at this point in time. Marginally good. You know what I'm saying? Tolerably good. They have a little something here or there to make it above a C, which would just be average. Honestly, I don't run across too many C score whiskeys, rums, gin. Even I don't fool with gin anymore. Brandy. They're usually in the B level or higher, which is not saying much because that means that the whole lot of them are B's or A's. Now, you might make a counter argument. Well, when they're all an A or a B, then it becomes a different paradigm within the paradigm. You know what I'm saying? A different system within the system. So now B minus is an F and a B and so on up to, well, yeah, you got to look at it in that way because it's the same with beer. You do 1,000 beer reviews and 950 of them are B plus, A minus, B. So they're all. So then it becomes like upper level, but I use the term that I stole off the radio, upper level mediocrity. But I'm not going to undermine or, let me say, abandon my scoring system because I adopted a 100-point scale once the Beer and Me went defunct, that website. And so I like the 100-point scale. 90 to 100 is an A, using a college scale, you know. 80 to 89 a B, range 70 to 79 C, 60 to 69 D, and below a 60, it's undrinkable. You cannot drink it. If you did, you'd either vomit or be very ill. And that has happened to me more than once. You say, because you drank too much. No, it was because it was terrible. And my body thankfully rejected it. And one time the beer was rancid. One time the wine was rancid and I didn't drink it. I took one sip, half a sip, I dumped it right on down the sink on the video, on camera. Gibson's, it was Gibson Vineyards, some kind of Marsala. It was obviously rancid. And I go back to the store and I tell them that wine was rancid. And the clerk says, Well, most people buy that for cooking. Now, how would that in any way be related to what I had just told him, that the stuff was rancid? I didn't argue with him. I said, okay, I already dumped it down the drain anyway, so I couldn't prove it. Like, I don't know why anybody would lie about a $4.99 bottle of Marsala, but it was very irritating. So these are like in that upper level mediocrity type framework, you see. The Royal Canadian is fine. Ain't nobody buys it to drink straight anyway, or neat, as we say. They're either putting it on ice, on the rocks, or even more likely, they're mixing it with something. Tomato juice. I don't know what people mix whiskey with any kind of thing. Tomato juice, pineapple juice, even milk, even coffee. I don't blend them because I just do the sipping on the taste challenges and the solo review, so I don't ever do any kind of blending experiments. My friend David was talking yesterday about how he spiked some of his beer with whiskey and one time with tequila, and I said, there's nothing wrong with that. It's not my kind of thing. So here's the Seagram's Canadian or Hunter. Yeah, it's got to be. I think. What time is it? Okay, I think the Canadian Hunter. People do that on TV a lot. You know, you see them on Fox trying to make a point. Everything I do, I copy from people. You know, I'm like a cipher. You know what I'm saying? I don't. There's nothing original in this channel. But I would give a slight little advantage to the Seagram's Canadian Hunter, but not much of one. And they're the same price, so okay, it wins by just the tiniest little bit. It better be the Seagram's when I look underneath this box. I don't have to look because of the appearance. I just open my eyes. It is how you feel, played. Seagram's Canadian Hunter, SCH. You could buy it if you want. I wouldn't be looking to go buy it. I mean, it's all right. I'm glad I bought it by virtue of being able to try a bottle that's at least 31 years old. You get it. But it's pretty ordinary. And the other one is pretty ordinary. And it's all just ordinary, but not treacherous or disgusting or rancid or nasty or anything like that. How is the Seagram's Canadian Hunter going to do against the next whiskey? Well, I can't remember what the next whiskey is. I think it's going to be Black Velvet. Yes. I think it'll beat Black Velvet because Black Velvet is sort of nasty. I don't even know if it qualifies for a B-. Black Velvet gives me the shivers. It's harsh. They say it's smooth as velvet. No, to me, it's as smooth as sandpaper. I don't like it. Constellation Brands loved it so much they sold it off to Heaven Hill last year. Now Heaven Hill's trying to promote it. I said they just stuck them with it. You know, Black Velvet started in 1951. It's been passed around more than Michelle Phillips in 1970. I ain't said that. I didn't say. I'm just joking. Anyway, I'm just kidding around in all seriousness. But that'll be the that'll be the next one on Tuesday. Black Velvet versus Seagram's Canadian Hunter. So if you're looking to be underwhelmed, and if not out and out bored to death, check it out. Dawn Busters coming up on Tuesday morning. Thanks for watching this video production.